Welcome to the Friends of Zane Adams, aka FOZA Podcast, bringing awareness of postpartum depression, suicides, and the children who are left behind. We'll be spotlighting positive outcomes from mothers as well as healthcare experts and counselors. Would you know the signs of PPD? Would you know how to help a loved one? Stay tuned. As a community, we can do more to support maternal mental wellness.
Welcome, FOZA Fans, and thank you for joining in on a new FOZA podcast. This is Paulette Smith with episode 35. As always, we thank you for your time and your advocacy. We thank you for being here. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube podcast channel and sign up for our monthly FOZA newsletter. Since our last broadcast, many of you have attended the PSI Postpartum Support International Conference that was in Washington, D.C. We congratulate everyone involved, and we invite Marylanders to support the PSI Maryland chapter. All others will help you find a PSI group in your state. If you don't have a chapter in your state, we have resources to help you start one. Just visit FOZAinc.org/resources, and you'll see PSI at the top of our list.
Before beginning, I need to say a few words about triggers. This is a safe place. However, we may discuss topics that can be sensitive and may act as a trigger for some members of our audience. The content we discuss serves to provide information, education, and advocacy only. If you are experiencing an emergency, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 988. And if you're not experiencing an emergency, you're seeking consultation, then please check with your doctor or professional caregivers. And if you feel that your voice is still not being heard, please don't give up seeking help. Visit us online at FOZAinc.org, and we'll try to assist you in finding resources in your local area. And you're never required to provide us with any private or sensitive information.
Now, FOZA Fans, this episode is entitled Doulas Unveiled, Supporting New Moms. And we named it that because we want to help bring light and some answers to many questions we receive about the role doulas play in providing life-giving services to moms and birthing people, and the ways they work in solidifying the entire family during the miracle of welcoming a new member. We're pleased and honored and especially excited to have with us today Lauren Thompson. Lauren from MHS. She's the co-founder and president of Community After Birth. She's a postpartum doula. She's the mother of 3, and she's dedicated to providing support services, education, and advocacy for the expansion of postpartum care. Now, many of you may know I have a niece named Lauren, so you know I'm going to love saying this. Welcome, Lauren, to the FOZA Podcast. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well, Paulette. Thank you so much for having me on.
The pleasure is all ours. So good, and the weather hasn't been that good, so thank you so much for coming in, taking the time to come in and be with us. You know, we want to jump right in because over time, FOZA has received a fair amount of inquiries about doulas. But first, before we get right into the meat of it, we'd like you to share a little of what brought your passion to the surface to advocate for the expansion of postpartum care and some of the organizations you give your time to.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Oh, man. So my oldest is 11 years old now. I'm a mom of 3. And when I gave birth, for the first time, I was really young. I was 23, right out of college, and really didn't know what to expect, and felt like I got through my pregnancy and birth experience without too many traumatic experiences. I was a pretty low risk, so I was lucky in that way. But I was just wholly unprepared for what the postpartum experience was going to be like. I kind of felt like, I gave birth, I did it. Okay, we're good. Like, we're past the hard part. And then boom, like postpartum it was so tough for me in the recovery. And I was pretty isolated, which made everything much more difficult in healing and with my mental health. So I struggled with depression. I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with intrusive thoughts and OCD. So it was really hard. And I kept thinking, why am I not getting more help from my OBGYN? Why am I not getting more help from my pediatrician? And I think that just always stuck with me through the years. And as I had more children, I just kept thinking they're going to come up with something. It's going to get better. And it never really did. So I was like, okay, like something needs to be done here. And that's what has led me to this work with becoming a doula and working with PSI, Postpartum Support International, and starting my own nonprofit, Community After Birth.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that you went through that. So many birthing people have that story to share, unfortunately. I really didn't want to even take you through that. But the fact is that when you shared what you just did, so many people, I'm sure, so many people in the audience related to you, and maybe someone who's going through it, but who hasn't actually found the help they need, heard it, and they know now that there's help available and support and resources. We're just at the beginning of that, but still it's better than it has been for many. And I wanted you to talk a little bit more, if you will, about your organization, your nonprofit.
Yeah, sure. So I started Community After Birth as a way to try to bridge the gaps in postpartum care. I think, I went to grad school and was studying models of care for this time after you give birth, like looking for other options that existed. And I just felt like there wasn't a lot out there. And I wanted to give back and find a way to help connect families and parents to more support in those first 6 weeks when they're waiting to go see their OBGYN, but they're already struggling with breastfeeding, or they are isolated and they need support groups and they need people to be there for them, and they need connections to referrals and resources. So, I started it to try to fill those gaps and work towards that.
Wonderful, wonderful. The primary role of a doula, we never, even in our research and looking for someone to come on and speak with us, we never really thought about that part. We just jumped right to, I guess, the relationship, but we never really thought about the gap that's there for a mom between the time she gives birth and the time she actually starts seeing a professional. So other than, and that is important, filling that gap. When you fill that gap, how do you do it? Give us a picture of what happens during that 6 weeks, or during the time between the mother giving birth and when she starts actually seeing the doctor.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you, doula care is something that it did come up in my research. It did come up when I was in school and I was looking for that answer. Doula care is something that is it's incredible support for families when they can find somebody they feel comfortable with. So a doula is, a non-medical, they're a person who is supporting a family, but they're not a medical professional. They are an emotional, physical, and informational support person. And in this case, birth doulas and postpartum doulas, doulas help families go through transitions, large transitions. So, bringing a baby into your family is one of the biggest transitions you'll go through as a person. So I think many of us moms and dads know that. So having somebody who's in your corner, who is a warm presence and supporting you while you're trying to make all these decisions, or while you are, maybe you don't understand something that's going to happen to you at the hospital, or in the postpartum, you're not really sure, like I was. I didn't know what was going to come for me in the postpartum. A doula kind of knows these things already. So they're anticipating things that you might experience, and they're ready with resources, and they're ready with education. And they're also just ready with, being with you alongside you on the journey, which can lessen the blow. It can make it a little bit easier to experience some of these things that are hard. So something we do with the nonprofit is trying to connect people with that doula care. And especially in the 6 weeks after you give birth, that's a real gap. And people are struggling with not just, their mental health, but there's also physical health issues that are coming up. So a doula is a great person to have there, to be another set of eyes and to be like, I actually don't think that looks great. I think you should give your doctor a call and talk to them today. So, it's great for that too.
And so you work with your organization, you and your organization, you work with the medical professionals. You're not MDs or psychiatrists or psychologists, but you work with them to make sure the moms get the resources they need.
Right. So the goal is collaborative care. So the goal is that, all members of this team would be working together. Your birth doula, your midwife, your mental health professional, that you would be connected. And especially doulas, in the community-based doulas, they want to be knowledgeable about who they're referring people to, know that this therapist has openings and can take your insurance. So it just helps people get connected that much more quickly, so that if you are having a mental health crisis or you are having, a crisis with your health, you're not, trying to Google things in the middle of the night and you're like, I don't know what to do or where to go. You have somebody who's already knowledgeable about who can help you in your area.
Absolutely. And you mentioned midwives, and we get some questions sometimes about the differences between a doula and a midwife. Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I didn't even know what a doula was or a midwife was when I first gave birth to my oldest. So it's very common that people don't know. And what we hear most of in the United States are people birthing within the hospital system with an OBGYN. And that's really like a highly trained medical professional on birth, and they're more equipped to handle high-risk pregnancies and high-risk childbirth situations. But a midwife, specifically a nurse midwife, they're a medical professional, which is different from a doula. They are trained. For nurse midwives, they're trained. They have nursing backgrounds, and they can provide care for a woman through her lifespan. So that can be through puberty, through childbirth, through menopause. And if they're working within a hospital system, they can attend the delivery of your baby, which is different from a doula. A doula would be more like a birth coach and be supporting you and helping you and your partner, but they wouldn't be the medical professional delivering your baby. They're a support person, whereas a certified nurse midwife can deliver your baby. And then there's also midwives who work outside of the hospital system, and they can deliver babies at a birth center or in your home.
Wow, thanks. That's good information, because I certainly probably used the words interchangeably, doula, midwife, not knowing that they weren't the same words, but not knowing exactly, the role that each one played. So I'm sure the audience is those who didn't know, and a lot don't know. And as you said, you didn't know when you first got started.
Yeah.
That's the kind of information that is wow. Doesn't seem like it's, it plays that big a part, but it does, especially when you're a birthing person or you're just starting your family or you're thinking about starting your family. And as you say, sometimes you just Google things, but it's always good to hear an expert talk about the differences so that when you start out, you'll know what your team is going to look like. That is so great. I'm going to ask you about new parents. So, of course, we don't want to talk about individuals, but it just in general with doulas and new parents. You have the mom and dad. They're expecting. about what time is it good for a doula to come into the family's life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, we always say, like, it's great if everybody can have a doula, because it really just adds to it adds to the experience for you. And I think, research has even shown that people who have a doula actually report having a more positive childbirth experience, just having the presence of the doula there. So I personally, and I think from what research has also shown in terms of keeping your continuous care going, the earlier in your pregnancy that you can connect with a doula who you feel is a good fit for your family, the better. And that means that that person is going to, one, be able to start sharing resources with you. So something that we think is really important to share is kind of these maternal urgent warning signs. So getting that information into the hands of you and your partner and your family members early on in your pregnancy. So say that you do start to show some emergency signs in your pregnancy, you have that information early on. So, and then a doula is going to want to come see you, prenatally and do a little check-in with you and just kind of see, like, how are you feeling? Do you have anything you're worried about? Do you have anything that you're not sure what to put on your baby registry? Like, it can kind of span a lot of different things. Or, like, how's it going with your in-laws? Like, it can be just really great to have that support in your pregnancy as you start to get closer to your birth. And then that way, by the time you do give birth and go into your postpartum time, you kind of already feel connected and supported by that person. So it's not like your first day meeting when you're, day 2 after childbirth, like, hey, help me. It's, you already have built a relationship, and it's a beautiful thing. But that said, if you are about to give birth and feel like, oh, I need a doula, it's never too late. Reach out. People are always willing to show up and support.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because what you just explained, that's a good story to get started. First of all, we want moms and birthing people to know that can be a part of just planning for your pregnancy. And that can also be a thought point. A lot of pregnancies are not planned. So that's a thought point when you get the good news that you're going to have a baby. For sure, you're not going to be alone. No matter what your life situation is, you don't have to be alone. You can have a partner to take along on that journey. Speaking of that, pregnancies are sometimes not planned, and we want to be as prepared as we can. So we want to look at not only how we can find a doula, but after we make the decision that we want to find one, what's it like to actually get that doula in our life as far as insurance and those kinds of, considerations, the consideration of cost? Yeah,
no, that's a great question. And it's something that I think about all the time because, my first pregnancy was very not planned. And I had no idea, and I was so young, and I barely knew how to navigate. I mean, I don't think I was even on health insurance. Like, I was still on my parents' health insurance at the age of 23 and was like, I don't even know what to do in this system. So having somebody so for me, when I get connected with people who are interested in doula care, I always share with them, first of all, doula care, since it's outside of the medical health system at the moment, it really does not have a lot of health insurance coverage, but that is starting to change. So, for example, in the state of Maryland, Maryland Medicaid is now covering doula care. So if you are somebody who uses Maryland Medicaid, you can get a doula for free through the state and through the care. So that's something that's pretty new as of 2022. And we're really trying to shout it from the rooftops so people know that it's there for them because it can just be, it can be really life-changing to find that person. And then also TRICARE is covering birth doulas for military families. So that's, if you have TRICARE, look into that with your health insurance provider. And a lot of these places will have directories. So if you're like, I don't know how to find the doulas, ask your health insurer, ask Maryland Medicaid how they can connect you with these people. And then there's a couple other of like private insurers through employee benefits that are starting to cover doula care. Carrot Insurance is one of them. But if none of these apply to you, there are some other ways. So you can pay for doula care through an HSA fund, which some people have through their employers. You can also set up something called a doula fund registry through your baby registry, your baby shower, which lets your family members and friends put like a couple dollars into your doula fund. So say they want to buy you, a baby outfit, some bottles, and then they want to add like $20 to your doula fund. And then you can start to raise money that way to pay for doula care, which I think is pretty cool. I would love to help somebody get doula care through their baby shower. So I love that it's an option.
Awesome, and never even crossed my mind, but so awesome. And that's why we're so glad to have you with us, because some of the information you have given us, some people might know, but I know for a fact a lot of people might not know. And that's what we're about, awareness. So you're bringing that to us, awareness. Now, you spoke about when people come to you and they're interested in doula care, whether it's the birthing person or it's a person who wants to be like Lauren, wants to be a doula. And so what advice do you have for them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we need more doulas. We need more doulas for sure. We need these support people to fill these gaps. And I think so many people are, very passionate and looking for ways to help support others and to do this kind of like purpose-driven work. So if that's you, I say go for it. There's a lot of options right now for being able to either build your own business as a doula or go in and work under a doula agency and get connected with other birth workers in your area who can train you, help point you towards, what certification makes sense for you. And it's a beautiful field to work in. It feels almost spiritual to me in some ways. So if there's anybody who is interested, I always put my contact information out there. Reach out. I'm happy to support you and point you in the right direction.
Wow. And speaking of that, go ahead and tell the audience how they can contact you and how they can reach out.
Yeah, sure. So the nonprofit website has a ton of information on it for families and also for providers or people interested in doula care or birth work. So you can find that at communityafterbirth.org. And then my personal email is lauren@fourthtrimesterfamily.com. And I think Paulette said she'd be able to share it in the show notes. So anybody who wants to learn more or just connect, and even if you're just a birth nerd and want to talk about these things, please reach out. I would love to connect with you.
Absolutely. We're coming down to the end of our time, but I just wanted to tell you how great this is. We have just so much information in such a short period of time that I know is going to be helpful for so many people. And I know that you are a member of Postpartum Support International. I'm a member. FOZA is connected to Postpartum Support International. Just had a big conference here, and just want you to tell us a little bit about PSI and why you joined.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you asked because, we just came from the conference not too long ago, and it was, almost 1,500 perinatal professionals and people who care about mental health and specifically mom and dad's mental health. And, mental health has always been something that has been important to me since I was, young. And I joined PSI and have been wanting to help spread the mission in the state of Maryland because I didn't know about it when I gave birth. I really could have used those online support groups 11, 12 years ago in my pregnancy and in my postpartum time, and I didn't know they existed. And so I've been trying to make sure people know that they are there for them and there is a way to get connected with, that you're not alone. You're not alone in what you're experiencing. It's not your fault what you're experiencing. You are not to blame. And, there's treatments for these things. And I think being involved with Postpartum Support International's Maryland chapter it's been a beautiful experience for me. And we just want to help as many families as we can.
We are so in alignment on that. We're so in alignment. Well, we've come to the end of our time, but first of all, I want to right now and tell you that we'd like to have you back at some point, simply because you're going to be our doula touch point. and you're gonna yeah, absolutely, because it's, as you said, we don't have enough doulas, and we don't really have the resources in place to fill all the gaps. You're doing that, and as you do that, you're going to meet other people who are doing that. That means things are going to grow. That means things are going to change, and there'll be more information that we can provide to moms and birthing people, and we know that that's going to happen. So can I ask you to come back at some point?
Oh my gosh, yes, I will be your doula person. You're getting me excited and hyped up, just all the things you're saying. I'm so here for it.
Well, we're excited and hyped up that your passion came to the surface, and you are helping other people know that the services are available, and helping other people know that they can be a part of it. They can be a doula. And I'm sure people are going to contact you, and they're going to be asking you about how can I get started. There's so many people with good hearts. There are so many people who want to help, so many people who have the empathy to help, as we say at FOZA, stop the silence, stop the shame, stop the suffering, the suicides that can accompany postpartum depression. And doulas, it sounds like a great way to help in every one of those issues. Okay? So
yes.
I'm going to invite you back. So glad that you came. Give the audience your website address one more time.
Okay, yeah. So it's www.communityafterbirth.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulette. This was so great. I look forward to our next chat.
Absolutely. Well, FOZA fans, thanks to Lauren, we've learned a lot about doula services, and we're going to stay connected with her professional services to bring you updates and fresh resources. Doesn't it feel good to know for sure that she's working on behalf of our community to bring awareness and to close the gaps between the time of giving birth to getting the much-needed support and resources before reaching the 6-week checkup time? Wow. Even better, we know now that the same support can be available from the onset of your birthing journey, and it can be life-saving. What a blessing. Well, don't delay in checking out the resource links Lauren provided on her site, and we'll have them on the FOZA site as well. We know it can be challenging to find assistance, especially when you're feeling down. So please remember to use FOZA Finder resource services and allow us to help you find resources in your local area. As always, no personal or sensitive data is required. Until next time, we ask you to spread the awareness. In memory of Christina LaShawn Thompson-MHS. Bye-bye.